Good evening, or good morning, or wherever it is that you are. My name is Mary Inglis. I am one of the game guide team. I've been involved with the game since its beginnings in 1976, when Joy Drake, the originator, began pulling it together, and I was part of the test playing team at that point. I've also lived here for about 47 years. And I'm here this evening to talk a little bit about the one of the versions of the transformation game, because I understand that following Judy McAllister's talk last week about the New Year event, a number of people have said that they don't know anything about the game. So we thought this evening we would just talk a little bit about one of the versions. There are several versions of the game, to give people more of an idea. So please put questions into the chat area. Alex Wright is here, and he will be picking up the questions and relaying them to me, and hopefully reminding me also of anything I might forget. And then also, if you have further questions, then please just put them up on the Foundation Facebook page or on the Innerlinks Facebook page. So, there are several versions of the game. The original one that was developed from 1976 was fairly complex. This one that we have here this evening, or today, is a more simplified version, and this is the version that's available on the market. It can just be bought and played as a home experience with friends. But we also have a facilitated version. We have a facilitator's training, which has advanced rules, and the facilitator helps the player to move to deeper levels of sharing and hopefully understanding and transformation. So I'd like to just share a little bit about this, because basically the game that we're doing at the New Year is like an expanded version of this that can be played with a lot of people, with just one path. But this particular version is for 4 players, or up to 4 players. And as you can see, there is a kind of like a circle. And the circle represents the Earth. And each of these 4 sections, represents a life path. The game is like, it's a simulation of life. It's like a mini lifetime. So it begins with the players formulating a focus or an intention for their particular game or for this particular mini life. What do they want to achieve? That can be a whole range of things. It could be problems they want to solve, or directions that they want to explore, dreams that they would like to actualize, hopes. So the first step is getting clear on what is the purpose or the intention for the game, because that's kind of like the seed around which the game will unfold, and all the experiences in the game are related back to that intention. Once we have the intention, people then fill a personal unconscious envelope with a set of potential experiences, and those experiences come from 3 card decks. One is from an angel card deck. Some of you may be familiar with the angel card decks, because these are sold separately. They're a series of qualities, 72 different qualities, like release, courage, communication, expansiveness, a whole bunch of those. So just with the roll of the die, cards will get put into the envelope. So in this case, there would be 6 angel cards from anywhere in the deck that would go into the unconscious. Then the next deck is the insight deck, and the insights highlight behaviors or attitudes or beliefs that are strengths or resources And just give you a couple of examples of these. Let's see. My personality is radiant with trust. Thank you for demonstrating joyous, conscious human living. Retreat is not defeat. You recognize the value of slowing down. So again, with just a roll of die, in this case 5 insights would go into the unconscious envelope. I'm not going to actually do that in order to save time. Then the next deck is the setback card deck, and these also highlight behaviors, attitudes and beliefs, but in this case these are ones that are more problematic or more challenging. They can also be called insights in disguise, of course, and they are things like you are set back by your control, or caught you preaching instead of practicing. It's all your fault. Look what you made me do. Victim thinking is very painful. So those also, with the roll of the die, will go into the card, into the unconscious envelope. And then the process of the game is for the contents of the unconscious to become conscious in relation to the purpose. And everybody starts in the source, in an unborn state, move around just with the roll of the die, and when they land on an angel square in the source, they get born, they come to the head of their path, and everybody sings happy birthday. And then off they go on their life path. There are a whole series of squares. Many of the squares allow for the insights and the setbacks and the angels to come out of the envelope. And in the facilitated version, players are encouraged to share real stories from their lives, because it's the stories from their lives that makes the game come alive. It's very different just to say, oh, I have a setback of control, I shouldn't be controlling. That keeps it at quite a superficial level. But if we can get a story of a time when the person was in fact set back by control, and in the game, when you get a setback, when you work the setback, you also get pieces of pain, which are represented by these little tears. So if a person was on a setback, they would be there with the pain around them until it was cleared. There are different ways of clearing pain in the game, and I'm not sure that I will go into that now, but just to know, for you to know that that is possible. You don't have to kind of sit with it the whole time. Let's see, what else? Oh, yes, so about the stories. The stories are really important because it also with insights, you might take an insight of you nourish the new, affirm the highest, behold the best in life, and give constant thanks for it. So if we can get a story, an example of a time when somebody did that, or did an aspect of that, it takes the card away from just words on a piece of paper and from more of an analytical perspective into an experiential perspective, so that like embodied memories start coming forward, which means that they engage your emotions, they engage your mind, they engage your body, and it's a whole different energetic. And being in touch with that and then reconnecting with the purpose brings a much deeper level of understanding different possibilities forward than if I'm just kind of trying to work it out with my mind and analytically. So there's lots of different squares in the path. There's a miracle square. There is a depression square, appreciation square, service square, and opportunities to use free will and intuition.
So you've got the intuition coin in the middle there.
Intuition, yes, thank you, Alex. This is the intuition coin. There's a flash on one side. It's an opportunity to test intuition. If the flash comes up, if you say, for instance, have an intuition to do a game move, to move to a different square, or to take a card of some sort, or to give something to another player or to create an experience that doesn't involve any of the game pieces. You toss the coin and you say what your flash is. You toss the coin, and if it comes up flash, it's yes. And if it comes up the other side, it's a piece of pain, and you receive a piece of pain and you do not do what it was that you intuited. So it's an opportunity to learn about intuition, to just be in touch with, is this my intuition? Let me give it a go, see what happens.
Imagine there's a lot of people thinking about this game. How do you, a lot of games, how do you win? What's the end?
What's the end?
Yes, how do you finish? What's the end goal of this game?
Well, in the kind of logistically, there are 4 different levels in the game. In this version of the game, there's more versions than others. Physical, which is red; emotional, orange; mental, yellow; and spiritual, purple. And once you've completed all the levels, got all the cards out of your unconscious, your game is complete. However, very often we don't complete all the levels. Depends on how long you're playing and what happens. Depends a lot on your purpose as well. Because for some players, they need to do a lot of work, say, on the physical or emotional levels. Others might do more work on the mental level. Others more on the spiritual level. Some, on all of the levels. But the point really is for people to achieve their purpose. And in some ways, the game provides lots of. It's like pieces of a mosaic. You'll pick up. Here's an insight card. Here's a memory. I talk about that, and then the next minute I'm working with setback or depression. It's a depression square, and it doesn't seem like it's connected sometimes. But as you pick up this piece and then this piece and then this piece, the pieces start to form a pattern, and people start making connections about their purpose and what it is that they're wanting to achieve. So the game in a way is like complete when there is like insight and understanding about the pattern as the patterning emerges. That's one way of saying it at any rate.
And these patterns, they interweave between the players, because obviously it's... is there a single person version, or is it a group game?
It can be played as a solo version with just one person, but this one is more usually played with 2 to 4 players. Each playing with their individual purposes, but also interacting with one another and sharing their perspectives. The facilitator also shares perspectives, and that's helpful because certainly I find somebody may see things about me and my process that I don't, but it's very much up to the player to interpret their own game. And if you were to offer me a perspective, then it's not like something I have to take. It's like, does that fit? Yes, no, yes. Oh, thank you, Alex. That's very helpful. Sort of thing. Yeah.
I'll just say, if anyone has any on Facebook, anyone has any comments, please do write them in. Any questions, I can pass them on, and Mary could answer them. So yeah, just because there might be a few people who've just joined us, just remind us again what we're talking about. We're talking about the game of transformation, and you have
Actually, we're talking about the transformation game.
The transformation game.
There are different versions.
Right.
The game of it's very difficult for people to get. The game of transformation is the original version, which is way more complex. 7 levels. Different additional squares than what is here. The transformation game was developed some time later by Joy Drake and Kathy Tyler. Put the original thing, it's simplified, put into the box, went onto the market, and then people wanted to kind of have more in-depth experience, particularly people who had played the original version. They wanted to kind of have like more in-depth rules and to be able to facilitate it as well. So that's when we developed the facilitators training. And from this also has developed a number of different versions. We have a planetary game which is played with between 60 and 120 people over 7 days, and and a group version that can be played with teams, and then of course the New Year game that we're going to do, the special global game, that is a very new one. It's based on a format that we have used before with groups, and we've worked with it twice. Online with the foundation and with the community here.
Can you just remind us when that is? When this
Yes, it is over the New Year. It's 28th of 28th of December to the 3rd of January. It's 7 days, but there's a free day in the middle. The 31st is a free day. So 3 days of play, 3 days of play. And it's from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. UK time, with a meal break in the middle and other breaks. So we'll be although it's a 6-hour segment, we'll probably be working for something like 4.5 hours, given breaks. 4.5 to 5 hours we would be actually working.
In that version of the game, you have one of these paths. But
yeah.
Much bigger, and it's laid out in this room here.
Yes, it'll be laid out on the floor in one of the rooms here. The squares are around about yay size, so it's just one path, and there's just one purpose as well. We will all be working with the same purpose, and we'll be having volunteer players. So if you're thinking of joining in, you can either volunteer as a player, and you may or may not end up actually focusing the play for us. We'll be having one volunteer player for each turn. So at the beginning of each turn, we'll take a name out of a bowl, and that person will come forward and they won't actually roll the dice themselves because they won't be here. We've got a proxy player who will roll the dice and move the marker and draw the cards, but that player will process the square. And depending on what the square is, it might involve just the player processing it, while all the rest of everybody else witnesses and holds and supports, as well as participants would also be connecting with what it means for themselves. So if somebody took a card, for instance, and was working with, I'm able to express myself clearly without using jargon, and they are talking about like how that is helpful as a resource where they might have done it, where they might do it. Other people could be reflecting on that as well as to where they would be doing it. Some of the moves will involve the whole group. You know, for instance, whenever an angel comes in, there are angel squares. Everybody will connect with the angel, and there'll be space for everybody to share about its significance for them in relation to the purpose. Some of the experiences will be worked with in what we call buddy groups. So we're going to have buddy groups of 3, breakout groups, where some of the experiences will be worked with in those groups. So for instance, if somebody landed on a miracle square, we would have everybody work in their buddy groups as to what would be a miracle for everybody individually. And then there would be cards taken in relationship to that everybody would also relate to individually, as well as then having some time to share in the group as a whole about those.
Can you talk about the purpose for this New Year's game that you're going to play?
Here we go. So individually and collectively, we intend to embrace and integrate our experience of 2020, given it's been quite a year, and open to and welcome 2021. regenerating and vitalizing connections and resilience in ourselves and in the world. Those of us who are in the guiding team, Joy Drake, Kathy Tyler, Judy McAllister, and myself, and Yasuko Takahashi, we spent quite a lot of time just sensing into like what did we feel would be a purpose that could be valuable not just for us individually, not just for individuals, but also for the collective. And I mean, was speaking for myself. It feels like, you know, for me, one of the most important parts here is the regenerating and vitalizing connections and resilience. And it feels like there's so much fragmentation in the world that it would be a real service, not just to ourselves, but collectively, to the world, maybe, to re-establish and regenerate connections with ourselves, the split parts of ourselves, connections with one another, connections with nature, connections with spirit and the subtle dimensions. And I think for me, one of the important things, one of the valuable things for me about these group versions we do, where everybody is working with the same purpose, is that we create it feels like we create a field where everybody is aiming to embody this in their individual lives, and that field then kind of like supports everybody to do it, supports each person. The more I do it, the more it creates a space where you can do it and others can do it. And you know, and then I think, you know, I think we're all like cells or fractals of the planetary being of Gaia, of the earth, of humanity. And you know, I think whatever each of us can do to, you know, build the connections, build resilience, create more wholeness, that, you know, it ripples out, I think, and affects our collective field, not just the collective field of the people playing the game, but the collective field of the earth.
And what's wonderful about this game is it's a physical representation of that. It's more engaging to do it in this sort of more physical way than in sort of. I mean, it is very much a mental, emotional thing, spiritual thing, but it's represented in the board, and somehow makes it more fun, I think.
Yes. Yes, it can be great fun. Yes.
And also it can be very emotional as well. It can be all sorts. I mean,
yes,
anything can come up in the game.
Yeah. For me, it's like a doorway. Sometimes I look at the squares and I think, oh, look, let's just like open that appreciation square. Let's go through there and see what happens if we start like appreciating and ourselves and one another. And okay, let's do it. and see what happens. And the energy shifts. You know, or, you know, work with a setback. Uh-oh, here's now a setback. Mostly we tend to kind of want to push them to one side, but there's a real transformative process that I think happens when we're willing just to be with the difficulty and the pain and the challenge, and to not try to avoid it. Something starts shifting. So, you know, I have a huge amount of trust in the game that the right things come up at the right time. And so in the global game, the New Year game, we also, in a way, like, really need to trust that the right names come out at the right time. And we'd ask people who put their names forward as players to trust, if their name is called, they are the right player, the right person at the right time, and it's their stories and the specifics of their lives that are important at that particular point, to open doorways not just for them but for all of us.
I can say, having played the game myself, it definitely does work, and the players that are picked are just the perfect players for that moment. It is quite remarkable how that sort of works.
Yeah. There can be some very moving moments. So just to say, you don't have to be a player. You don't have to be a player that rolls the dice and speaks to everybody. But anybody who wants to is welcome. Your names will go into the bowl. And again, there's no guarantee your name will be called. But on the other hand, we have 5 days. It might be. I'm not sure we'll get through everybody, but and if we do, then the names just go back in again.
Can we just go? I know you did this earlier, but just a brief explanation of just how it works. You start in the middle, so each player starts in the middle. In the case of this New Year game, that will be one. You just have one playing piece in the middle.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Because there's one player, and we are all the one player. whether you're rolling the dice and speaking. Or whether you're working in a buddy group, or whether you're doing a personal process, it needs to move through all of us.
And then,
did I answer your question? I think you asked something different.
Well, I was asking for an explanation of the sort of just a rough overview, a quick overview again, and then each player, or in the case of the New Year game, the collective player will then move, is born, takes and then moves onto the board, and then moves through the board.
Yes.
And then starts on the emotional level. So everything that you're talking about...
starts on the physical level.
Physical level.
Yeah.
It starts on the physical level, and everything at that point is about the physical level.
Yes, and you move through the levels in different ways. You move through the levels basically by gaining awareness, which goes on a scorecard here, which are represented by these tokens. They're also quality tokens.
And they're red on each as well.
They're red.
The same
so
color.
This one will be red.
Yeah.
And then on the emotional level, you'd get the orange card, and you'd get the...
And these cards they're specific to the physical, the types of qualities, like strength or that sort of thing.
They have more of a connection to physical. Physical also represents grounding. It's
so it's not necessarily things like money and the body and things. It can be,
Yes, let me give you some of these. This might give you a flavour of it. Uniqueness, genuineness, reliability, practice. Now these can also, of course they can also be relevant to the other levels as well, but these come with insights usually, and there's other squares where you can get them as well. And basically when you have 6 awareness tokens and a service token, which is represented by this little heart with wings, and no pain on the path, you move up to the next level. That
would be the emotional.
That would be emotional. It's because we in some ways part of us lives in a linear universe.
Yeah.
Part of us lives in a spherical universe. So on the linear aspect, we move along the path and we move through levels. But the levels, actually all of the levels are held together and are part of a sphere. So even though we're working on the physical level, there may be emotional issues that come up, or there may be reflections on mental beliefs that are affecting things. So it's not kind of hard and fast. It's not like you can only be emotional on the emotional level, right. Kind of thing.
And it's not so much like a progression through life. You don't sort of die at the end.
No, you don't. That's a good point, though. And this on the path, there actually is no beginning or ending. No. You kind of move around it. But, if you come back to where you began, you just kind of continue.
Just again reminding people who've just joined us, we're talking about which one is it? Transformation game or game of
This
transformation?
Is the transformation game.
Right.
Transformation box game.
This is the transformation game. the one that you're holding in the new year is the game of transformation.
No. It's an expanded version. Actually, it's a hybrid of several versions. It's unique.
Maybe it's the transformation game of.
I think we're calling it the transformation game.
Right.
I think we're calling it the global transformation game.
Right.
A new name.
And the game you have in front of you is the box version.
Is the box version?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's the rules are in a way they're closer to this one than the others, but the global game has quite a few elements of the other ones as well. We are going to be using these levels and scorecards and the way of moving through the levels. So in that sense, it's based on this. But there are additional squares. There's a stress square, a synergy square, a nature square, a world work square, earth square. So there are additional ones that come from other versions of the game, and we've adapted some of the rules so that they aren't just the box game rules. So if there are box game facilitators who are listening here or intending to play, the rules will not be exactly as you know them.
So I think it's time to wrap up. So just tell us, remind us again about that New Year game you're going to be facilitating with Judy McAllister, Kathy Tyler,
and Joy Drake. Yes,
yeah.
And Yasuko Takahashi's been handling the technical side of things, and Susie Schwartz, some of you may know her, will be doing the chronicle, and a woman called Karen Werner will be the proxy player. And we'll be playing from 9 until 3 for 6 days. On New Year's Day, we may start a little later, like about 10.
And that's from the 28th of December to the 3rd of January.
That's
you
right.
Can sign up on, we've got the link there on the in the description here. So you can click on the link and it takes you to the foundation page to sign up. And
Great.
I'm sure the guides will be looking forward to seeing you there at the game at the
Great.
end of December.
I hope everybody who's watching will come and join us. Thank you.